guess we'll start off with the bad news.
All right. So Tennessee lost. Let me pull it up here. Five guys to the transfer portal in the spring window. That is, um, the first of which, or probably the biggest of which, was Jacoby Thomas to Miami in the spring window, and this one's unfortunate. I got to be really honest. Jacoby Thomas was a guy that I think a lot of us were looking forward to see really blossom in that role as a starter and as a second-year starter in that defensive lineup at strong safety. And, a guy that had some really impactful moments last season, delivered some really big hits over the course of the year. And he dreamed of playing at Tennessee. He's from Tullahoma, started his career at MTSU, and it was a dream come true for him. At least that's what we thought. But he took it back when he left for Miami. So maybe it's a bigger stage for him. I don't really know if it's a bigger stage just because I look at the way that Miami fills up its stadium. You're not playing in front of a full crowd like you are at Neyland Stadium for the most part. And he's in Miami, so I guess if you enjoy Miami, you enjoy the beach, that's a good spot to be in. They're probably giving him a nice NIL deal, but supposedly they were not paying him what he was or what he thought he was worth here at Tennessee is what we're hearing.
Well, I mean, it's a very interesting situation because we've discussed a couple of times before, like how lacking Tennessee is in their secondary. And you would imagine that Thomas would have gotten a lot of playing time this year. I mean, he did pretty well transferring from MTSU the year prior. I thought that he stepped up pretty good last year. And he was almost certainly going to be the starter with Brooks being gone. So it's a little bit of a questionable situation. And as you mentioned, he grew up as a Tennessee fan. So that makes it even more peculiar. Like, I understand like NIL and wanting more money. And like you said, Miami, I've never been, but seems like a very fun place if you're like a college kid. But I'm not so sure what his thought process was making this decision. And I'm curious to see if there will be any interviews or press conferences where he might mention his reasoning later on, or maybe he hops on a podcast or something. Nowadays, you never know. But it'd be interesting to see where his mindset's from and what his reasoning is. Because, of course, we hope everything's good at Tennessee, or like the fans do. But it's interesting to see so many defensive backs leaving when that was an area of issue for Tennessee last season.
Yeah, and it's with him, like, you have an opportunity to again grow yourself in that role. And also, too, you think about Tennessee, you've got a real large platform there for you, and you've got a really supportive fan base as well. That, not to say Miami fans aren't supportive, but it's a little bizarre to see him leave. And yes, you mentioned that the secondary had struggled in years past. It hadn't this year. That felt like a strong point, and it felt like he was a key contributing factor to it being a strong point in this defense. But now you look at it, and just depending on some injury situations, you're looking a little thin right now. And we'll get to it in a second because Tennessee did address its needs to a degree in the transfer portal in the secondary. But overall, I think you can't help but feel a little bit disappointed by this development.
Yeah, and especially since he's a Tennessee guy too. I mean, so many of Tennessee's great players have came from elsewhere, like Georgia and other states in the surrounding area. It's always nice when you see a homegrown talent go play for a school that he's always dreamed about. So it's sad to see that Thomas is gone. But like you mentioned, Tennessee has made some moves recently that should help them out in this situation.
Yeah, so Jacoby Thomas was the first, well, not the first guy to transfer out of Tennessee. That was actually John Slaughter at defensive back, but he was the most significant guy to transfer out of Tennessee in the spring window. On the note of John Slaughter, he and former Tennessee offensive tackle Larry Johnson both committed to Coach Prime and Colorado in the past week, which that's an interesting one to me for obvious reasons because it just feels like a very interesting experiment they've got going on in Boulder because you look at what Colorado was before Deion Sanders got there. They had one good year under Mike McIntyre. They had like 110-win season in 2016. And they got rid of him. Carl Durrell could barely win a game right before they hired Deion Sanders the next year. And now it's just like you've got this guy who is, known for his smack talk, known for his ego, known for his NFL career. And he's bringing his son and this other high-profile prospect with him. And they're going to make football at least entertaining at Colorado. Maybe not good, but entertaining. You could say they were good last season. How does that look this season without Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter around at Colorado is a good question to ask going into this year. But overall, again, it's just such a large experiment they got going on out there because it just feels like this thing could end poorly at any time. We don't know when. I know they got a quarterback, Julian Lewis was the 5-star that they got over USC out there. But I don't know. I would imagine Larry Johnson probably gets some pretty early playing time opposite Jordan Seaton on the offensive line. Another guy Tennessee was after. And I don't know how exactly John Slaughter fits into the equation out there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I'll double check, but is Caden Salter there now too? At Colorado? I'm pretty sure. Let me see. Yeah, Caden Salter's now there too. So they got
there are other reasons why he left Tennessee.
Yeah. What reasons?
Well, I think there was some marijuana possession, like multiple instances of marijuana possession.
Okay, I was actually unaware of this.
I believe that was that would have been the second semester of my freshman year of college because I remember I had a class with him and it was on Zoom that year. And I think because you could see like he was hanging out in the hot tub with like 3 different Tennessee football players that year or just in that class. And the professor got really mad because he had his mic left on. So I'm sure he's cleaned up his act a little bit now because he was a pretty terrific quarterback at Liberty, really good dual threat player. Don't know how well he would have fit into the Heupel offense, honestly. But there were obviously some other factors there, like the ones I just mentioned.
Yeah, so like was Salter going there? The Larry Johnson, John Slaughter. I mean, Colorado's been pulling talent in, but it's interesting to see how well they will mesh. Like, because you've brought up before the importance of team chemistry and everything, and like getting all these like high profile guys is good and all, but can they mesh is like the big thing. But I guess we'll see what's going on with Colorado moving forward. But
yeah.
did you want to get into the next news?
What next news are we talking about?
With Colorado?
Oh, well, we got 2 other guys to address out of the transfer portal that left Tennessee before. But to go back to what we were saying about Larry Johnson earlier, that's a guy that should help them out tremendously on that offensive line. Like, that's been a problem for them for 2 years now. So, I mean, it stinks that he left Tennessee, but that's a good pickup by Deion. That's a smart pickup by Deion. And then Slaughter again, I just don't know yet where he's going to go or how he's going to fit into that offense, I should say, or defense. I can't talk tonight. This is rough. So the other 2 guys, Christian Charles committed about a week ago to Virginia, and I think literally 24 hours ago, Aiden Bussell announced his commitment to West Virginia, former Tennessee reserve offensive lineman. With Christian Charles, I imagine he sees the field pretty quickly. It's a nice little smaller environment for him in Virginia. Maybe that's just what he needs. And with Aiden Bussell, I don't know what the situation's like with West Virginia's offensive line. Maybe he sees the field quick. Rich Rod's first year on the job up there in Morgantown, so we'll see how quickly he gets on the field.
Yeah, and honestly, like with everyone that's been left Tennessee in the portal, I think for the most part, those players probably made the best decisions for themselves, like you mentioned with Christian Charles, and I think with Larry Johnson, with David Sanders coming in, probably made the best decision for himself. But I just don't agree with that with the Jacoby Thomas situation. It's just an interesting move for him to move out there. But like I said, I mean, Larry Johnson, you talked about Colorado's offensive line struggling. He'll probably get a lot of playing time. Christian Charles, I mean, he was only going to get so much time at Tennessee anyways. So it like, I don't know. It's just, I think, I just think that not too big of a deal for Tennessee outside of Jacoby Thomas.
Yeah, and that one hurts. And he's going to play a lot at Miami. Make
Oh
no
yeah.
mistake about it. He's going to fit in well there. It's just, again, a guy that you'd like to have back from last year's team just because of the spark he provided you in the defensive backfield.
And I will say, like in Larry Johnson's situation, I mean, with how big he is and how massive of a human being he is, and the media attention that Colorado gets, I'm sure that was the best option for him. I mean, even if he doesn't like have an outstanding career, he could get eyes from NFL scouts just based on his size and the fact that his games were televised to begin with. Which, I mean, of course, he could have got that with Tennessee too, but I feel like it'd be easier for him to shine on a team like Colorado as opposed to like playing in the SEC, where you're going to be going against like 6'5", 270-pound defensive ends that can run 4.4 flats.